Hello, electric beings. How are you guys doing today? I'm doing a follow-up video from the video I did last on my channel about investing in yourself. And so, I just also wanted to make sure that you guys had a good holiday with your family. I don't participate in the holidays, but that doesn't stop me from wishing you guys to have a good time and all those good things. So, just to follow up. So in my last video, I was talking about investing in yourself, whether that be materialistically, spiritually, or professionally, or however you deem necessary. But you cannot choose to overindulge so much in one area that you forget about the other two, because that will cause a constant imbalance. And that's what most of you guys are suffering from, an imbalance between mind, body, and soul, or professional, material, and spiritual. Okay, however you want to rotate the dynamics around, that's mostly what most people are suffering from. Okay, and then the byproducts are the foods that they put in their bodies, which then leads to the complete obliteration of the spirit, pretty much, and being able to fix yourself. Okay, so when I told you guys I reached self-actualization in my video before that one, mastering yourself by mastering the matrix, I just wanted to show you guys what tools I use to get to that point of self-discovery, what was important to me, and just knowing where to begin, because a lot of people complain that people tell them to get healthy, they tell them to do the mind work it takes, the soul searching, but they don't tell them how. Okay, or the good things to eat, but they always tell them the bad things to stay away from. So I'm going to give you guys a set of tools here, okay, to help you on your journey. All right, so let's start with my first one, my blood work. All right. So the reason why I brought this out is because I feel like a lot of people, they get these things from their doctors. They have no idea how to read them. They don't know what's going on. They're relying on their doctor to interpret this for them. And ultimately looking at this and all these numbers, not knowing what these things are on the side here, leads to frustration. And eventually people do that and say, F it, I'm done. I don't even give a shit. Okay. So I'm going to show you why it's important for you to understand these things and to go the extra mile to make the effort. Your PCP is there to guide you, okay? They're not there to do the entire work for you. You live with yourself. Therefore, it is a part your responsibility to document daily changes that you notice, or areas of concern, okay, where your doctor needs to give attention to properly guide you. Okay, so if you're going in there knowing nothing, expecting them to tell you everything about yourself, you've already fucked up. Okay, now here we go. PCPs are like a generalist, okay? They do the general things. Your physicals, take your blood, analyze it, and then they direct you to specialists that you need to see. I call them the switchboard of doctors. If you know what switchboard is, it's when you call in and the person directs you to whichever department you need to speak to. Switchboard, PCP, same job, okay? Because essentially, the PCP only knows but so much. You eventually have to go to a specialist to truly find out what it is that you need to know. Okay. Now, when I first got my paperwork, originally they just sent me this first sheet, right? And I was like, well, that's not telling me nothing about nothing. I was like, what's the levels? What's my blood? All this other stuff. So then they sent me the second thing of paperwork, and that's where I had the actual numbers on here. So they did measure my electrolytes, the kidney function tests, my liver function tests, my lipids, which is like my fats, the good and bad ones in my body, and then my blood. My eyes went straight here originally because the blood is what I knew something was going on funny in my body. When people be like, how do you know something funny was going on in your body with blood if you're not a PCP or a lab person or anything? Because I looked at my hand. Now, I'm going through an issue with psoriasis. So generally, I would never show people this in like real life when I was younger, because I used to be ashamed of my hand. But I was not born with psoriasis or eczema. So this happened to me at like about 8. So something around that time triggered something in me that started producing this issue that I've been dealing with literally for like the last 20 years. Okay. So I'm going to show you my hand. All right. Now, if you look at my hand, you can see that I just washed dishes. So my hand dried back out. Okay. So when you look at it, it's like cracks. Okay, it could look kind of scaly. The brown lines in my hand are like very faint compared to my other hand, which is regular. My joints have a lot of skin built up right here, like in the creases. So it hurts when I try to like grip things like really tight, like make, when my nails are not on, but really tight to make a fist and stuff like that. Like I can't do monkey bars because of the skin right here on my fingers and stuff or whatever. So a lot of people be like, well, why can't you go down the poles, or why can't you monkey bar and all this other stuff? When I was a kid, and I used to have to explain to them like, yo, my hand is preventing me from doing this. So it like feels like it's cracking, you know what I'm saying? And like potentially almost bleeding if I don't keep it moisturized. I can't use water-based lotions. They dry out so fast. Everything has to be oil-based, no chemicals, no parabens, none of that shit. So that pretty much took me away from all commercial products on the stores. And I just been using oils and shea butters and essential oils only. Like that is it. Okay. And so I was like, but when you look even further, you see like little spots like right there. Okay. And right here, they're like little brown, look like liver spots and stuff. And so at that point, after treating it topically for so many years, and I did lighten a lot of the damage that it was doing, because around here on my hand, like right here, used to be so dark, y'all. Like so dark. So I was able to lighten my skin as much as I could right there to get rid of the damage. This my hand used to look like how it looks right here in like the crack all over my hand. Okay, so now my hand is not really doing it so much in the entire area like it used to, like how my thumb is right now. That's my thumb. Okay, so I could tell that what I'm doing topically is working. It is going away, but it's not fast enough. I have to go internally now, because now I know it's deeper than just the surface area of my skin. Okay, so that's how I knew that something was going on. I was like, yo, I think my blood is dirty or infected, or something is going on for my skin to be showing up like that. What I found out was that it wasn't just my blood, it was my gut health. Okay, we're gonna get to that in a second. So that's why my eyes went straight here when I was like, okay, what's going on with my blood? So generally, when you get this paper, this is everything that they're measuring that's within the body. Okay, all of your vitamin, minerals, and all those other stuff count that they're doing. This is normally the scale of where you are. This is normally what the scale is from the highest to the lowest for what it is that they're measuring. So what I did was I took things that were either high or low or borderline and highlighted them. And I made little notes. So like on my globulin, I was feeling like that was really, like I was close to the higher end of the spectrum. Some people might not think that that's that serious, but I'm 0.4 points away from the high end. So I wanted to know what that was. I found out it measures the plasma protein within the blood. And I was like, well, why is that high? And then I went to go look at potassium. At 3.7 is mine. The low is a 3.5, right? So I'm like, well, that makes sense, because I'm always cramping. Like my body is just always feeling like one big cramp. You know what I'm saying? So that made me go to sodium, because I know normally when you're cramping, you're not getting enough sodium sometimes. But sodium and potassium go hand in hand. And that's what I didn't know before I started really analyzing my blood and stuff. I always was focused on sodium, but I was never really focused so much on potassium. But my sodium is perfect. Okay, so that lets me know the potassium is out of balance, not my sodium. So I started taking potassium supplementation as of recently. Okay, to try to figure that out. I came down here, and I was also taking notes also. They say that when this is low, it affects the pituitary gland, which makes sense. So you see how this is a 7? Mine is an 8. I'm so low on the spectrum. And I was like, what happened here? But I can guarantee you that this had a lot to do with stress that my body was going through, and then mental stress that I was putting onto my body. So as I'm stressing out after the car accident, dealing with all the other stuff or whatever, my body is pumping so much cortisol, which it takes potassium also to put out cortisol. So as my body is draining through cortisol and potassium, it eventually, because it went for such a long period of time, this chronic ass stress that I was going through, it eventually got to the point where it started messing my pituitary gland, because your pituitary gland is what tells your adrenals to shut off the cortisol. And if it keeps pumping it out, eventually you burn out the pituitary gland, you have issues. And that makes a lot of sense though, because I was having issues with my hair around the crown of my head, right where some people would say your pituitary gland is. So I was like, I knew something was wrong, because I would get like these weird ass sensations at the top of my skull a lot of times, and it would get hypersensitive, but only there in that spot. So I knew something was going on up there, but I didn't associate it at that time with anything pituitary. I just didn't know what it was. After that, I came down here to the blood, because that's what I was really interested in. And you see, there's half this shit is damn near yellow. So this right here, my blood platelet count was really high. That was 414,000, and that measures how your bodies handle blood clotting. This makes sense for it to be high, because like I told you, I was in a very high impact car accident. I rolled around. I was bruised the fuck up. So this makes sense to me. I did look up these things, but I don't know where I wrote the definitions of them down. But when y'all don't know something on these things, please go look it up. Google is your best friend. It will tell you exactly what it is, what it measures, what's the general scale for men and women, where you should fall, how your doctor test should be measuring it, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of information online when you actually look up these things individually. Understand it. If you look up how to fucking twerk, you can look up hemoglobin, bitch. You can do it. So, anyway, so I started looking at my hemoglobin or whatever, 12. That one wasn't so terrible. I put that as a little low, so that was something I wanted to watch for. But generally what that does is it brings oxygen. It brings in oxygen into the cell, and then it dumps carbon dioxide. So my body is not oxidating itself enough. Now, that could be because I was also smoking marijuana to de-stress. Okay? And so a lot of people say that even though marijuana is good, when you breathe it in like that, it makes it carcinogenous. And that's why they're advocating for other ways for you to use marijuana, because it essentially is sucking up the majority of the oxygen in your body. So that could be from my weed smoke. That could be from not eating enough oxygenated foods. That could be from always doing this shallow breathing shit like me before I was practicing my deep breathing. It's a lot of things, okay? And this one, hematocrit. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but sorry. So that one, which one? I had that one. They said that normal scale was normally between 42, either 5 less than 42 or 5 more than 42. So what was mine? Mine was 37. So I was keeping that up because I was concerned a little bit about that also. And what's this? This one, I forgot what this stood for, but I was concerned about that also. I think I took a note somewhere else for it. Okay, so now that I'm looking at it, I'm looking at the spectrum in whole, and this is not a full blood panel test. Like I said, you have to ask your doctor for those, because not all insurance companies cover that if they think it's unnecessary for them to do that. Sometimes you have to pay out of pocket for a full blood panel test, or a lab that will participate with your insurance company. Okay, so I'm looking on here. So now this is giving me a bigger picture of what is going on, areas for me to focus on, okay? Pituitary, crown chakra, okay? We're going to focus on that. Stress, what is bringing me stress? Potassium, dehydration, all those things. Electrolytes, focus, okay? This helps narrow down the focus of what is going on. Then we looked here, okay? Now, a lot of these were measuring if I had like any type of allergens or infections or anything going on in my body. When I looked up this after Googling it, because I didn't know what none of these shits were, it was letting me know that this is a little high, and that generally I should be less than 7%, okay? And the only time that it's more than 7% is when if there's a bacterial, parasite, or reproduction disease possibly present, or protozoal infections. I don't know if I wrote that right, but I was writing fast because I was just doing this on my own at home. Okay, so I was like, damn, do I have any type of infections or any other things like that that could be present in my body, or bacteria? Now, I did have a bacterial infection in my intestines back in 2008. like 2008, 2009, I was really stressed out on my job. And I think that's honestly what started this shit. But I was also going to get cappuccinos at the cappuccino machine that they had all the time, that was available in the cafeteria when where I had worked at. So every morning I would go get it. And then I realized that eventually, as I was coming to work every morning at 8 a.m., I had to vomit like every day on cue. And people were asking me if I was pregnant. I'm like, I'm not pregnant. Like, I know I'm not. I'm getting my menstruals, but I'm still vomiting. Something's wrong. I'm not saying that you can't be pregnant without getting your menstrual, keep getting your menstrual, because I see some people experience that also. But it let me know something was wrong. And then after a while, my stomach was so inflamed that I had to go to the hospital pretty much. And when I got to the hospital, I was admitted. And this is why it's important to deal with stress, because like I said, that could be stress induced. I probably would have been able to fight off the bacterial infection from the cappuccino machine had I not been so stressed out, which weakened my immune system. Do you see what I'm saying? You got to keep track of this shit. So then I thought about when I was a kid, and when I got bit by a tick, I thought I had Lyme disease, but they caught it in time. They said I would have some residual symptoms, but I'm not like a full-blown like Lyme disease victim. So I wanted them to test me for that again, and they did. So this is the scaling that they gave me. This is my score. My score is showing me that it's negative. So I had to rule out that. But what is causing this to be high? Any doctors in the hair who got any tips, please let me know. I'm trying to still figure that out. Okay? And pretty much the rest of this is just other little information, and then places where they sent my blood work to be done, who analyzed it, what was the ordering physician, time, yeah. Right? So now I have a starting point, at least to work on the body at this point, right? So everything that I thought was happening is confirmed on here. My doctor did not go over these with me a lot of the time because I was not necessarily completely in the negative, even though a lot of these I am borderline. For them to have to actually talk to you or diagnose you with anything, you have to be in the negative in those numbers or way out of the spectrum for them to consider something being wrong with you to start a form of treatment. So I was like, so you have to wait till I get all the way sick for you to help me. You're not going to help me be preventative about it. So that's when I knew I probably should just switch PCPs, and I need to also be analyzing this shit myself. So what I do next? I did all things with love. I started tracking myself. God damn it. Let myself know life just got real as shit. Okay. September is when I started charting things. Okay, at that point, I was just charting like where I was going, what was happening to me at that time. Part of this was for my court cases, because I had to document everywhere I was going to keep track of the events. By October that came, I had been home for a little while now, like 2 months after the accident. I was analyzing things about myself, and I always wanted to look into natural birth control, because I don't like I've never taken the pill, the patch, the shot, the Mirena, the IUD, none of that shit. I don't believe in none of that shit. I don't believe in releasing synthetic hormones inside my body, whether they're bioavailable or not. I don't agree with that shit. And that may work for some people, but for me, that was a complete no. Okay, if it's foreign, it don't belong in my body. I don't want it there. And I understand that some people who have like genetic diseases, or genetic dispositions that stops their body from being able to do these things naturally. That's different. Okay, but I'm not sticking a ring of hormone in me because I just want to go have fun, and I don't want to be worried about the repercussions of childhood. I'd rather understand my body and how it works to prevent it naturally without having something synthetic inside of me do the job for me. Okay, and that's not a diss to anybody. That's just my preferred method, okay? Again, we're talking about me. So I started, if you can see, I put on here practicing natural birth control. And while I was also healing the issues that was going on my back, I was documenting how many days my menstrual were. I had studied the cycle, found out that once my period generally ends, the 10 days that follows after the last day of my cycle are the most dangerous days where pregnancy can occur. So therefore no semen can be placed in there. My son is now 8. I have not had any accidental pregnancies. I haven't had any issues or complications or anything like that. Never had an abortion. And I thank God for that every single day, because I can only imagine the pain that people suffer through that. I really hear the sorrows of those women. I empathize with them a lot. I'm very thankful. I've never had to go through any of those situations. And so through that, I use this book also to test me. Okay. So it started with me tracking my cycle. Okay. And where I was going. In November, I was like, you know what? I need to start tracking the food because I need to figure out what's going on with this stuff from the blood test. I want to see if I'm able to change it. Okay, so then I started writing down goals and stuff. What I'm trying to treat. I was trying to treat excessively dry skin. I had vision issues. Just because I'm not wearing my glasses doesn't mean I'm not having issues with my eyes. I am, but they're not as bad as they used to be. And I'm also trying to fix the anemia. Okay, and that was November 2018, last year. I let my menstrual information, like how my menstrual was going, vitamins and stuff that I wanted to start taking, and what the goal was as far as what to do in this book. Okay, so inside the book, if I found out anything new that month, like I had began after I realized that I had studied macronutrients so much, I needed to now study micronutrients, and that meant vitamins and minerals, because that was one thing I was missing from my diet. I had started eating better, but I wasn't incorporating the tiny building blocks that led to the stronger building blocks of forming your organs, muscles, and cells. So I went cellular. Okay, I told you before where I was looking at all the organs and shit. Now I'm going cellular, micronutrition. So I started studying about cod liver oils, A, D, E's, and F's. I was studying about vitamin K2 and why it is so important to get greens, because what people eat, drinking as much calcium and all this other stuff that they do in that fake milk and all that other crap, you need to have the K2 stuff to move that calcium out of your muscles and put them back in the bones where they belong. Okay, I was reading about vitamin C would fix a lot of y'all issues if y'all would just ingest the correct amount without the synthetic versions. Okay, all right. Vitamin K1s, vitamin K2, there is a difference. The vitamin K1, what did I write in here? Used by and transported to the liver, found in large leafy greens. 75 to 90% of all vitamin K. What did I write? Hold on. 70 to 90% of all vitamin K is consumed this way. Okay. So most people will get it through here. And that's the plant. So vitamin K1 is 75 to 90% of all vitamin K is consumed through plants. And that's like your kale, your collard, your spinach, leafy greens. Vitamin K2 is your fermented foods, okay, and animal products, okay. So that's like your chickens, your egg yolk, butter, cheese, and fermented foods. Like every time I think of fermented foods, I always like be fucking up. But you know what I'm talking about. Kimchi, what's the other one I hate? Horseradish, all that weird stuff, okay? Next. After that, like I said, more vitamins. You see, I was touching fish oils. I was looking at probiotics because I didn't want to eat yogurt anymore. I was completely done with everything that was milk based mostly. The only thing I didn't give up that was completely dairy based was real butter. Like the butter, like when you flip the label over, it only says heavy cream and salt. Like that's the only thing that I still keep that's dairy, honestly. But that's it. And I was reading about iron and how, you're supposed to take certain things with it because it causes constipation and stuff. And so after doing all of that, I went to keep going. All right. Checking everything out here. And now I started to put actual projections of what I was trying to accomplish. So consciousness, do everything consciously present, letting myself know to stay present because I was getting so stressed out that I was going into past thoughts of depression. I was going into other issues with just my mental in general, okay? And so I had to know that for me to remain the most powerful, I had to stay present. But in here, I'm documenting food. I'm documenting, like I said, still what I need to do, things I need to get, things I would needed to try. measuring. So now I have a tool here where I'm measuring my success. Okay, I can see what I ate. I can see what I did. I can see what was bothering me. I can see where my menstrual changed. My hormonals were starting to change. Okay. I started to get even more focused as I started knocking down this list. If you can see, I started writing down my goals for what my plans was, my business ideas, and things like that. Still with the messages, still telling myself to stay present. It was very hard, you guys, especially this month. We buried my man's brother this month, okay? I was silent. I learned a lot this month. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I was very silent. Present, no fears or worries. That's what I had to start trusting the process, that all of the stuff that I was experiencing was happening for a reason. And the more that I began to tune out the world, the more that my inner world started speaking to me. Okay? So essentially, I started using this book to find patterns, all kind of things that I could see in my behavior, in my food patterns, the time of year where I crave certain foods, all those different things. Okay. And then, so that book ended. I kept it going. This is the 2019 going to the 2020 book. By this time, I learned a lot, so much over the last 10 years about nutrition, the body, all those other things that I need to start going to school. So I started looking up schools. Okay. Again, I'm going in with the same thing. This book started in October. No, I'm lying. September. All right. So now, this book, we're still doing the same thing, okay? But the messages are still, I'm focusing, but now I'm including the things that I need to focus on in my diet to keep everything going. I noticed that my body does very well when I'm on mostly a keto diet, okay? Limiting carbs, when I'm drinking fermented foods a lot. A kombucha is one of my very favorite foods, okay? When I'm consuming a lot of citrus, when I'm juicing, when I'm having a lot of seafood, and when I'm taking my supplements. When I'm doing these things right here, after analyzing over a year, that's when I know I feel my best, okay? This is what these books are going to do for you. It's going to show you patterns. It's going to show you what you were eating when you felt your best, what you were eating when you felt your worst, what you needed to eat more of. Are you having a more macronutrition, or are you including micronutrition such as your minerals and vitamins also? Okay, so here, every month I measure how long my menstrual was, the supplements, how many times I had citrus, anything, whether it was citrus juice, whether it was lemons or citrus fruit, whatever, fermentation, how many times I had fish, how many times I juiced, whatever. Okay, this helps me to narrow down, started writing my thoughts down. Okay, and overall, I was using my menstrual as a measuring tool so I can see, because your menstrual will let you know a lot about yourself, especially as a woman. Okay, so I was looking on here to see patterns. So October 2018 all the way down to October 2019. This is 1 year of tracking. And if you see the pattern, it is 655 66555 4 6665, and it stops right there. Okay, so I had one time in June stood out to me because that was the shortest month, and I was like, what the fuck happened that I had that? So I was measuring at that time. I was switching over from a vegetarian diet back over to keto. Okay, so that was an extreme opposite. I was taking myself from a sugar energy diet to a fat energy based diet while eliminating the carbs. So that's a complete mind fuck. I can see why as I'm doing that, because you can see right here I'm going over crumble and soy, how many times I'm eating it, because I was wondering if the soy that I was eating from the vegetable meat substitutes was fucking with my menstrual. Okay, and so you can see the more I increase the soy, here it comes creeping up to 6 days. Okay, soy I had one time or less. Okay, that was a 4. This time I had it 3 times. Okay, so but what I did notice was that a lot of times when my menstrual was doing good, when it was less than the 6 days, it was because I had citrus, or I had probiotics, okay, or seafood in there, or a combination of all three. And so I realized that those were serious for me, okay, and that I needed to keep those things in there, okay. In June, I also notated I did a full diagnostic on June. June, I also ate less. I fasted the first 2 days of my menstrual in June. So that let me know that on my menstrual is best for me to fast. It is best for me to have probiotics to keep the gut balance, which will in turn keep the yoni balanced, my vaginal area. And then I can also have citrus, like I said, to keep the bacterial infections and all that other stuff in check. And the fish will help me keep healthy fats, so I stop with the fucking cramping and atrophy that a lot of people are suffering from. And so this was a good spectrum. It helps me condense the two books down to this right here, as far as what I was looking at. So this is another way to measure yourself, women. And last but not least, so I can hurry up and try to bring this to a close, I have resources for you guys. Books that were, some of them were recommended to me on YouTube from other people that I follow, that turned out to be very well. So I'm recommending them also, passing the baton. And so this one is just like a diagram pretty much of things in your body. Okay. Really good for kids too. It breaks things down to simple form. Lots of pictures, lots of colors. Okay. For all of those who don't just like words in there, you get to see the pictures of your cell, you know. So if you're really trying to understand your body in more depth, okay, this is a good book for a visual aid. Okay. After that, I did this one, the hormone fix. I talked about these in my other video, why is your menstrual so terrible? Okay, so this is generally, some people think that this is just for older women, but because our dietary days are so, like our diet now is so fucked up as Americans and some people all over the world, this is good for anybody at any age, because there's a lot of women who are in their 30s, some of them in their late 20s, who are experiencing perimenopausal symptoms, and you shouldn't be having those around those ages. Okay, menopause, they say, generally doesn't start until your late 40s into your 50s, so something's wrong. Okay, so you want to find out what is causing your hormone imbalance, and that's why I said you got to get off all of the goddamn chemicals in your makeup, in your hair products, in your toiletries, shit, even some of your furniture got formaldehyde, all this other crazy ass shit on it. You got to get those things out of there so you can rid your body of that, so you can really get down to the root of what is going on with your hormone. Okay? All right. This book is great. She talks about doing alkaline keto. Okay, what is alkaline keto? Keto, again, is where you have very restricted carbohydrates within your diet so that your body is not raising the glucose to mess up your insulin and your ketones and all the other stuff. Alkaline keto is where you're kind of eliminating even more. You're just trying to eat more alkaline foods in your keto diet. Okay. Less acidic foods, more alkaline. So you're alkalizing while also using the fat from the foods as your main source of energy instead of sugar.